In 300 AD, four empires ruled the entire known world: Rome, Persia, China, and a nation you've never heard of. That fourth empire was African, and it traded gold for silk with Rome directly. By the end of this video, you'll know why history erased it. You'll see its coins, its 100-foot stone towers, and its lost king. This is the true story of Aksum, Africa's superpower. In the 3rd century, a Persian prophet named Mani wrote something strange. He listed the 4 greatest kingdoms on the entire earth. First, Persia. Second, Rome. Fourth, China. That's the world you learned. Third on his list was a kingdom called Aksum. Not Egypt, not Carthage. A kingdom in the highlands of East Africa. Mani wasn't guessing. He was describing the geopolitics of his own lifetime. Aksum controlled the Red Sea, and the Red Sea controlled global trade. Every spice, every silk bolt from India could pass through its ports. That single fact made Aksum richer than most of Europe at the time. So why isn't Aksum in your history textbook next to Rome? Keep watching. The answer says more about us than about Aksum. Aksum rose in what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. Its location was almost engineered for power, between Africa, Arabia, and Rome. Ships from India sailed north, hugged the coast, and stopped at Agilis. Agilis was Aksum's port city, and it was one of antiquity's busiest. From there, camel caravans carried goods inland to the capital city itself. The 1st century Greek trading guide Periplus already named Aksum as a market. That means Roman merchants were writing about Aksum before Rome had emperors. Aksum exported ivory, gold, emeralds, rhino horn, and tortoiseshell. In return, it imported silk, wine, glassware, and Roman weapons. This wasn't a tribal outpost. It was a functioning global trade hub. And a trade hub that rich needed something no neighbor had yet. It needed its own money. In the late 200s, Aksum began minting its own gold currency. It was the first sub-Saharan African kingdom to strike its own coins. Only Rome, Persia, and the Persian Empire had done this before. Archaeologists have found Aksumite coins as far away as India and Israel. That spread alone proves Aksum wasn't a regional power, it was global. Then Aksum did something even more radical for its era. Around 325 AD, King Ezana converted the empire to Christianity. This happened decades before Rome itself made Christianity its official religion. Aksum became one of the very first Christian states in world history. And Ezana proved it in the most permanent way possible, on money. He put the Christian cross on Aksumite coins before almost anyone else. Every coin was a tiny, priceless propaganda campaign broadcast across continents. But coins weren't Aksum's most jaw-dropping flex. Something bigger was. Walk through the city of Aksum today, and you'll see stele. These are giant carved granite towers, some over 100 feet tall. The largest attempted stele ever quarried weighed roughly 500 tons. For comparison, that's heavier than the stones used at Stonehenge combined. These weren't rough monoliths. They were carved to look like buildings. Engravers etched fake doors, fake windows, even fake multi-story floors. No one has fully explained how they moved stones that heavy. There were no wheels involved, no pulleys as advanced as Rome's. Some historians believe the largest stele collapsed during its own erection. Its remains still lie shattered on the ground in Aksum today. These towers marked royal tombs, built to broadcast power for eternity. And it worked. They're still standing or lying 17 centuries later. One of these obelisks has a story almost nobody knows. In 1937, Mussolini's army invaded Ethiopia and looted an Aksumite obelisk. Fascist Italy shipped the 24-meter stele to Rome as a war trophy. It stood in a Roman piazza for nearly 70 years, far from home. Ethiopia demanded its return for decades, and the world mostly ignored it. In 2005, Italy finally agreed, and the obelisk was cut into pieces. It took 3 military cargo flights to bring it back to Aksum. In 2008, it was reassembled exactly where it had stood before. That obelisk is now a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure once again. Its journey mirrors Aksum's whole story, stolen from memory, slowly returning. Ethiopian tradition ties Aksum to one of history's most famous rulers. The legend says the Queen of Sheba herself ruled from this city. Her supposed meeting with King Solomon produced a son named Menelik. Ethiopian belief holds that Menelik later became Aksum's founding king. Even more astonishing, tradition claims he brought the Ark of the Covenant. A small chapel in Aksum is said to guard the Ark today. Only one guardian monk is ever allowed to see it, by tradition. Historians can't verify this, but it shaped Ethiopian identity for centuries. Whether myth or memory, it made Aksum feel sacred, not just powerful. And sacred cities don't usually vanish quietly, so what happened here? Aksum's power began cracking around the 6th century, not overnight. King Caleb sent armies across the Red Sea into Yemen around 520. He was defending Christians from persecution by a Jewish Himyarite king. The campaign succeeded briefly, but it drained Aksum's treasury and army. Then came a force nobody in Aksum could have predicted: Islam. In the 600s, Arab expansion swept across Arabia and the Red Sea. Aksum's old trade routes to Rome and India were suddenly cut off. Some historians also point to drought and soil exhaustion around this time. Without trade income, the empire that money built began to starve. Its capital was abandoned, and its royal court retreated into the highlands. By the 900s, the empire that rivaled Rome had effectively disappeared. But Aksum's bloodline didn't die. It transformed into something else entirely. Aksum's successors carved the rock churches of Lalibela centuries later. Those churches still stand carved downward into solid volcanic stone, so the evidence never disappeared. The story just stopped being told. European colonial-era historians built a narrative excluding advanced African civilizations. A literate, Christian, coin-minting African empire didn't fit that narrative. So it was quietly dropped from most Western history curriculums entirely. Meanwhile, Rome, Persia, and China stayed central to every world history class. Mani's original list had 4 names. Most people can only recall 3. That gap isn't an accident of memory, it's a gap of storytelling. Aksum minted gold before most of Europe even had unified currencies. It converted to Christianity before Rome made it the state religion. It built towers taller than most ancient monuments outside Egypt. For 5 centuries, it stood as an equal to Rome, Persia, China. Aksum didn't fall out of history. It was written out of it.